Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this week's Oxygen XML live event. My name is Alim Belu, and I will be your host for today's webinar, the second installment in the tutorial series titled Transforming DITA Documents to PDF using CSS. Now, in the first part of the Transforming DITA Documents to PDF using CSS tutorial series, we aim to teach you how to customize your PDF publications using CSS and make them compliant with all your company document styling policies. Now, you are ready to continue your journey through DITA to PDF customization. So today it's time to move on, and with the help of my colleague Julian Lecor, software developer at Synchrosoft, you'll get to learn some great new tips and tricks about the PDF page layout. Julian has a lot of information to cover for today's event, so let me go forward and share with you some useful information that you need to know when it comes to today's event. As always, all of our webinars are being recorded, so today's event makes no difference. After the webinar comes to an end, the recording will be made available on the event page on our site, oxygenxml.com, along with Julian's presentation slides and samples, and also the recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel titled Oxygen XML, where I encourage you to take a look at the impressive library of other tutorials that are there for you. Another important aspect is that as we go along, please ask us questions by using the questions panel from the GoToWebinar interface, where our colleague Dan Capriwara will assist us by answering to all of your questions in real time. And of course, we will be addressing the questions again at the end of the event in a Q&A session for the benefit of everyone joining us today. So with this being said, let me say hi to Julian Lecor. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Aline. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Now we will start this new journey into transforming DITA documents to PDF using CSS. So now in this webinar, we will see more about book design, pagination, page layout, and bookmarks. So as an introduction to this webinar, I will present or remind you some useful tips about how to customize DITA elements. This to simply show you how easy it is to customize PDF using CSS. From the first webinar from last year, we can retain two principal rules. When we are transforming DITA documents to PDF, the CSS we create is applied on the HTML intermediary file. This is why the transformation is called PDF using HTML5 and CSS. And the best practice when you are customizing DITA documents using CSS is to use the class attribute for matching all the elements. For example, if I took a topic, so in the first part of the image, you can see that the topic in the HTML5 will be converted into an article, an HTML5 article, but it will keep its class topic, which is the DITA class and subclass. So this is what we prefer using when creating CSS rules. So this is what you see in the second part of the image. So also as a reminder from how CSS works, the more specific the selector, the higher its priority. This means that if I resume it shortly, the longer the selector, the higher its priority. So if you have more rules on the same element, the longer will have the priority if you have the same properties applied. Next, we will focus on the DITA table of contents structure. So outside of the topics references, the table of contents in DITA may contain, for example, index list, a table list, or a figure list. This table of contents doesn't behave the same in a DITA map and in a book map. For DITA maps, the table of contents and the index list are automatically generated during the transformation. For the book maps, it's a little more complicated. You have to use and add the book lists element and declare inside it one of the few elements I've put there. For example, the talk element for the table of content, figure list, table list, etc., etc. Also, the table list and the figure list are only available in the book maps. And I also add a link to the book list element if you want more details about how many elements you can put there. I organized this presentation as a question and answer session with some common situation you may encounter and how to solve them. Also, the data content I will use will be structured in a book map. So I will have here my book map, and I will also show it some. I will show you, some modifications to this book map during the presentation in the author mode. So before we going further, here come my now traditional question. What is your level of CSS knowledge? So I will let you a few seconds to answer. Okay, I think a lot of you have already voted. So it seems that most of you at least understand how CSS works. And some of you also know as to use function, pseudo elements, and so on. So this is great, as this course is not so advanced in the CSS, and you will show you, even for maybe the most advanced users, it will be a good reminder, and for the other users, it will be new, maybe new features you will understand now and you will use in the future. So let's go down to business and start this Q&A session by the table of contents customization. The first problem we will analyze could be how to fetch the first level of topic refs. So sometimes you may need to customize only the first level. You may need to customize it differently than the other levels inside your table of contents. And to make this, there is a really simple solution. You will use a selector that contains the isChapter attribute. The isChapter attribute is only available on the first level of the topic refs inside the table of contents. So I simply create a CSS selector that follows the best practice I gave you at the beginning, and I will add the class attribute. And to this selector, I will also add the isChapter attribute check. So this is what you will see in the following image. So I took the class first and do the classic selector. So I want elements that contains the map topic ref class and the isChapter attribute. And I will add a small rule to them. So I want, for example, to have a bigger font size than the next levels of topic references. Another requirement I could have is to select, as I already selected the first level of topics, I could need to select the nested topics references that are inside these chapters. So starting with our previous CSS rule, we will add the CSS child combinator, which is the bigger symbol. And you will also use the not CSS pseudo class to filter the elements that are not from the first level. So I took the first level, so the chapters. I can add a more precise rule and use the not is part to make that I want only the chapters and not the part of my book maps. Then I will use the child combinator, so I want the child element, the children elements, which are also topic reference, of course, but they are not chapters anymore. And to these elements, I will add a smaller font size than the first level. A small adjustment to my previous slide. If the table of contents contains both part and chapters, the selector will differ a little, and they have to follow the following rules. So you have, as you have seen in the previous slide, the is chapter not is part to make sure that you select only the chapters. And if you want to select only the parts, you can use, as you have for the chapters, the attribute named is part. Another small tip for people that are customizing the table of contents, you can directly filter some elements from the table of contents by using the talk attribute and the no value. So in my example, I don't want the copyright of my document and the preface of my document to be inserted into the table of content. I want only them into the rest of the content. And so I simply have to add in the notice element the talk no attribute. And this is what you can see here. The final problem we will see on the table of content part. We can have to select another requirement the figure or the table list from the table of contents. In order to do that, we simply need to use the specific class, as figure and table list are topic references too, so they already inherit for the default map topic ref class. So if you have rules that matches all the topic references, they will also match the figure list and the table list, for example, but you can create some specific rules for these elements using their more specific class, which is the bookmap figure list, for example, for the figure list. And this is what I did in my customization. I also reduce these elements fonts to make them smaller than the chapters of my document. And this will conclude the table of contents customization part. So let's enter into the PDF content personalization now with books, front and back matters. The first problem I will see now is how can I select, for example, only the front matter topics. So I want my front matter topics to behave differently than the other topics from my document. The solution is as simple as what I did for the is chapter part. I will simply use the is front matter attribute. So the topics that are contained into the book front matter are already marked with the is front matter attribute. So I simply have to use once again the class selector and the is front matter attribute check for my rules. And obviously there is also an is back matter attribute if you want to do the same things for the back matter topics too. Once again, on my CSS customization, I selected some topics that are from the front matter, which in my case are those two topics, so the copyright and the preface that are in the content. I want them to appear in a smaller font and not to be displayed in different pages. I want them on the same page. So this is what I did in my example. We can also need to change the chapter's starting page. This modification I will insert here, for example, is that I simply use the Oxy initial page number property with the value auto odd, which automatically will move all the chapters first page into an odd page and complete the missing pages by blank pages. So if my previous chapter finishes into an odd pages, a new blank page will appear on the following page to make sure that the next chapter will start into an odd page. So for example, if my first chapter ends at page 7, the next chapter will start at 9 to be sure it's also an odd page. And this is the rule you can see here also in my document, and there was the example also from the slides. Another requirement that some of you may have is to change the page layout. For example, you may need to insert more columns into the same page to display the content. So how I can create this specific 2 columns display? The solution will be divided into 2 parts. The first one consists into adding the output class attribute into the topic ref element. So once again, I will go back to my bookmap, into my DITA bookmap. I will simply add some output classes on my elements, and then I will match them into my CSS. So using the default rule, using the class, I will match them using their values, and I will define a different page for them. And the second part I will have to do will be defining, obviously, the page rule that will be used for this specific output class, by defining some, for example, multiple columns counts, so in my example 2, and adding a gap between the columns, 1-inch gap in my example. So this is what you will have here. So the first part is to select the topic I want to be displayed into 2 columns, adding the output class using Oxygen's attribute view. Then I will match this attribute into my CSS style sheet using the output class, and use the page attribute, relate and create the link, between the page and the page rule, and into my page rule define a number of columns I will use and the gap between those columns. We may also need to change the PDF bookmarks. For example, their text, their display text, or the original state. And in this case, we simply need to use the bookmark specific properties that are labeled and prefixed by the bookmark text. So for example, I will match the titles of my topics. I will create a bookmark label, which will have as a content the text, so the title of my topic, and the default state of my bookmarks will be closed. So when the PDF will be opened into my PDF viewer, all the bookmarks will appear, but in the closed state. So I will have only the first level of bookmarks. So I simply used this rule into my PDF document. Also, there could be a lot of bookmarks in your PDF, and you may want to hide a few of them. For example, the DITA sections that are contained inside topics. So the question could be how to remove these sections from the PDF bookmarks. And for this, we will also use, as for the previous slide, the bookmark label property. But we will also add the important CSS specificity rule to make sure that our new rule will override all the DITA default rules that we already defined for this specific transformation. So as you may see in the picture, once again, I select the topic first, then the sections inside the topics. And I want to make sure that I select the titles, because normally the bookmarks are made by the titles of the topics, sorry. And I simply define the bookmark label, say that I don't want any label to be displayed here, and add the important to make sure that all the, regardless of the level of bookmark and of section, no section will appear in my bookmarks in my viewer. So once again, back to my CSS, I copied the rule from the slide. And the final problem I want to analyze today, we are once again related to the figure and table lists. So as we change them in the table of contents, we may need to change them in the content too. So how can I select the figure and the table list from the content? And as for the table of contents, the solution will be the same. We will use the specific classes that are inherited from the topic, which is the default class for the topics. And I will use the placeholder defined by DITA for the specific elements, which is the figure list and the placeholder table list. And I, for example, define a property that says that I don't want any page break between them. So using the page break before, which means that they will not appear into separate pages. So to resume what I did into my customization. So in the first part, I customized here my table of contents. So my first level of table of contents, then the other topic references using different font sizes. Then automatically, without defining anything, I selected the topic from the front matter, which in my case are the copyright and the preface, and use different rules than the default rules we have. Then I define a specific behavior for my chapters to be displayed, then to start, sorry, only on odd pages. Then I created for some of my topics a specific rule, which in this case is made in the topic references. But what I forgot to tell you is that it's also possible to do exactly the same by selecting the topic node into the topic directly and add the output class at the topic level. It will be the same behavior in the CSS as during the transformation, the output class is propagated from the topic references to the targeted topic. So I prefer this method as it's easier to see the different outputs and the different classes applied on my document, but I could also use the solution to tell the topic directly inside the topic. So I define here a custom page and I use it directly for these customized topics. Then I defined some behavior for some of my bookmarks. I changed the default rendering, which uses the content and text before indicating the chapters, for example. And I also close all my bookmarks. And I also remove from my bookmarks all the sections. And finally, I define a specific behavior for the figure list and for the table list. So I will run a small transformation on this document. So I copy the default transformation. I will indicate that this customization have to use as the CSS style sheet my customization. I will transform my document, and before showing you the PDF, we will take a look into the HTML generated file. Like this, I will show you the small differences and how the CSS is applied. So we will find our rules into the CSS, from the CSS into the HTML document, sorry. So if I open this in my custom application, so I use my custom browser, I can see that if I inspect the topics references, I will find here, so let's check this after. So I will find here that all the topic references that are chapters, so they have the is chapter true, matches my custom rule and have a larger font size. I can check it directly in the browser. Besides all the default rules we have and the browsers have, if I select the figure list, I should find the rules I've set on the font size still from my custom CSS file. Here you will see the article, which is the first topic from my book. And if I check here, you will find the famous is from matter attribute, which I used to match my custom rule. So this is why if I select, for example, the first chapter, which is also an article, as the attribute is missing, the rule is not applied in this case, which is exactly what I wanted, to match only the front matter. Also, if I take a look at the article using the two columns attribute, I will see that the output class is present, so the custom rule is present. And finally, if I go to my tables, so my list of figures, you will see that the placeholder I used and the rule I applied. And obviously, all I selected will be found back into the final document. So the larger font here, the smaller font here and here, all the bookmarks that are closed. So you see that then if there are nested chapters, nested topics, or in my chapters, they are closed, so I cannot see them basically, but if I click it, it will open the document. The front matter is not present due to the talk no attribute, so I don't have the front matter topics inside my table of content, but I have them inside my PDF. I have some blank pages, as this is the page 4 of my PDF and this is the page 5, so I forced the starting page in my PDF. Here you will have the 2 columns display with the 1-inch gap between the columns. The same for the next one, as it uses the same page rendering, the blank page for the new chapter, and we go back to the default page definition. And the lists that are not splitted, as well as, sorry, I want to match this one, as well as the rule I define here that says that I don't want any breaks here or here. And you will see that both lists are in the same page, as the page break is not used anymore. You can see also some default rules. As you may see that the index list in the bookmaps is also defined onto 2 columns, but this is the default behavior for this kind of lists. Oh, this is here. As always, I gave you some useful links that I use for to create this webinar. All these links contain some how-to topics that will help you for maybe other requirements you may have. And I also have some more detailed explanation about the customization I did in this webinar. Finally, could you tell us how was the information presented in this webinar? As we will use this feedback to make even more efficient webinars to give you even more useful information. Okay, so I will let you some few seconds more to tell me as good was my webinar today. Okay, so it seems that the webinar fulfill your needs, so I'm glad to hear that. And obviously, I want to thank you for being here today with me and for listening to my course. And if you have some questions, we will answer them right now.
Thank you, Julian, for your presentation, and and a big thank you to all the audience members that voted during these polls. And let's jump to the questions window. We have a comment that says, I hesitated between perfect and too complex. So you did a very, very good job, Julian. Up until now, we have only one question, and it sounds like this. I tried using Bookmap, and it numbered every page except for one topic with Roman numerals. How can I change that?
Normally, as far as I know, the default numbering system should be Arabic numbers, so 1 to X. Maybe you have a problem for the topics that are before or inside the table of contents, as these topics are numbered using the small Roman numerals. So maybe for this problem, you should address us an email to support@oxygenxml.com. But usually the default behavior is the following. I don't know if my example have enough pages in the content to show you, but normally, yeah, as you may see, yeah, this is used for the table of contents. So this is the default numbering for the table of content pages and from the front matter. But normally, when you start the chapters, the numbering should follow the classic numbering. So having the page number, the classic page number. So if you have a problem, it's possible that one of your default rule in your CSS override this behavior, and the index will be numbered using small letters. So this is the default behavior of the numbering. So if it differs, it's possible that you have a rule that changed this.
As a follow-up, the same audience member said the one topic that was in Arabic numerals was in the front matter, but the rest of the front matter and the entire pub was in Roman numerals.
Okay, so as I said, I think the best is to maybe to send us a small sample when you have this problem, to try also to run the default transformation to see that if there is maybe a problem in the data structure. But normally what I gave you as default is what we use as the default numbering system. So maybe you have somehow a rule that overrule this system and use the small Roman numerals. So I'm waiting for you in the support mail.
Another of our audience members is asking, is it possible to get a project file and the slide deck? I am at work at the moment and will need to review this excellent presentation later tonight. And I have to remind everyone that the recording for this, for Julian's presentation, will be available on the event page tomorrow and on our YouTube channel. And on the event page, you will find the slides for Julian's presentation.
Yeah, and the files. I'm not sure you told the people that usually after 1 or 2 days you will find on our YouTube channel the videos, and on the website both slides and example files to reproduce the same outputs as I use.
Yes, exactly. Another question: why is your table of contents curved?
I'm sorry, Robert, but I don't understand. What do you mean by curved? If you can be more specific, or because I don't understand what you mean by curved.
Yeah, maybe he will send us an
Yeah,
additional
yeah. You can also ask
explanation.
maybe if you want, or if we go too fast in these questions, you can ask us in the email. Also, we will answer you if needed.
Absolutely. Okay, I don't see any new questions. So let me take back control. Oh, Robert just wrote to
Yeah,
us in an earlier.
earlier answer, it
Yeah.
showed a two-column talk. Sorry, maybe Robert, you were talking about the index list, which is on 2 columns. Maybe this is what you were referring to, but this is the index list, which refers all the indexes that I have in my document, and all the index terms, sorry, the DITA index terms that are gathered during the process and sent directly into the index list. I think this is what you are referring.
Yes. Yes. He's
And
confirming.
yeah, it's curved because in fact these are index terms. So if I take the deep chapter, I can show you the curved, why it's curved. It's simply because there are nested levels. So I have deep space exploration, astronomy. So when I have index terms nested, the output will show the nested levels on a different indentation than the first level. So you have deep space exploration, anomalies, astronomics, as it is here. This is why you have the difference. but you can find also the same reference directly, which is this reference directly here. So this is what you were asking for.
Thank you, Julian, for the additional explanation. Robert, please let us know if this is what you meant. And I want to remind you that if you have any feedback regarding Julian's presentation or any other comments or follow-ups, you can also refer to the feedback component um, uh, that you can easily find on the event page, where the recording will be uploaded tomorrow along with Julian's slides and examples. Now, before saying goodbye, let me say a few words about our upcoming live webinar, where you can meet the rest of the Oxygen team. Techniques for customizing the web help responsive output on March 30. The need to customize the appearance of published documentation is something that is being addressed constantly by our users. And as a solution, Oxygen Web Help offers a predefined set of layouts and styles that can help you achieve your goals. So to get you accustomed to these options, this webinar will walk you through several techniques available for customizing the web help responsive output. So don't forget, on the 30th of March. And also, we encourage you to take a look at our events page, where you can also find the links to register for free to all of our future events. And reaching the end of this webinar, let me thank again Julian Lecor for taking us on a journey through DITA to PDF customization once more. So thank you, Julian.
Thank you, and thank the audience to ask so many questions and to be here listening to this course.
And also a big thank you to Dan Capriora for helping us with the audience's questions in real time. And of course, I am incredibly grateful that you all could join us again to another Oxygen Live event. We hope that we will see and hear each other on the 30th of March on another occasion and extraordinary event. Until next time, stay safe, and taking in consideration your respective time zones, have a nice day or evening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.